This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Marc Megna and learn how to master the art of building culture in your gym. For all of you listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview and the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. If you'd like to watch the show live, we record every Friday in the network, which is our free private Facebook group for the motivated gym owners of the world. Join the network and grow your gym. Okay, back to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I am your host, Marcus Gurzy, and this week we welcome to the show special guest Marc Megna, founder of the Megna Method, co-owner of Anatomy Fitness in beautiful Miami Beach, as well as host of the Megna Method podcast, and really so much more. Marc, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. Marc, aside from all the things I just mentioned a moment ago, I know you have a pretty incredible backstory. You having been drafted by the New York Jets, you played with the Patriots, and a whole slew of other pro teams. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your story?
Absolutely. Starting off as a young boy, grew up in a blue-collar town, Fall River, Massachusetts, special place. And at a young age, I realized that sports and athletic feats actually got a lot of respect. And at the time, I was a young, insecure, shy, very obese young man. And I wanted to get the attention of people in a positive way because I was enduring the bullying and things of that nature. So with the help of many special people, including my grandfather and some wonderful youth sports coaches, I was pushed into the weight room at a local boys club, and I started to work and train and push myself. And the truth is I hated it. I hated all of it. But it's funny because after the training, I actually walked away with a really special feeling. And that will come full circle later on. We'll discuss it in the show. But that was a feeling that I thought everyone should have at some point in their life, or at least their childhood, and it would become a significant foundation of things that I would do later on. I transitioned from a challenged or a non-athlete to an athlete who played sports in high school, earned a scholarship to the University of Richmond, and was later drafted by the Bill Parcells of the New York Jets, and bounced around with several NFL teams, also in the CFL and NFL Europe, and inevitably had several injuries, but the one that put me out was a significant back injury, and I realized that the only way I was going to be strong again or feel good within my body and have a great quality of life was to get educated and fix myself. So that was my pathway into training, and then later on working for some really wonderful people and learning from them and transitioning into my own business.
So did you start first when you transitioned out of the NFL and were getting into this journey of rehabilitation? Were you just kind of free floating and just focusing on yourself, or did you start working for some other gyms and begin training people? How did that evolution begin? Because now you run one of the most well-known gyms in the Miami area. How did we kind of get from there to the gym?
So after my injury, I had a terrible back injury. I was hospitalized in Montreal for several weeks, and the pain was just terrible. I couldn't function athletically. I couldn't lift even an open bar, empty bar, if you will. Couldn't run. The only thing I could do is actually move in the water. So I became a bit obsessed with swimming to the point where I was doing several hundreds of laps a day of alternating strokes. And that really helped. They say motion is lotion. That really helped my back significantly. And I also recruited the help of the PT for our Montreal Alouettes football team. Really helped me. I spent a lot of time around him and studying and trying to figure out what the positive things were that I could do for my back, and started to immerse myself in all the education and literature that would help. And then moving to Miami, I went to work for Equinox Fitness, and I had a experience there. I worked there for almost 9.5 years, or just under 10 years, and I completely immersed myself in the culture, and I knew that to lay a foundation or have the education that was necessary, I had to go out and get the best, and the best that I knew at the time was a gentleman by the name of Pete Bomarito, who owned and ran Bomarito Performance in Aventura, Florida. He trains hundreds of pro athletes, including notables of Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, Wes Welker, just a host of all-pro athletes, professional basketball players, baseball players. It's kind of the hub where professional athletes train. And I told Pete I wanted to work for him. He didn't have a position at the time. I interned for Pete, worked for free, and I was happy to do it because the learning was just incredible. And then after that, he hired me as a performance coach there. Worked there for a few years, and then I was all over. I was writing articles. I was working for Equinox. I was working for Bomarito Performance, doing content for bodybuilding.com. And I was an athlete for Muscle Tech, doing things for them. And I just wanted to learn as much as possible. Meanwhile, through the whole course of that, basically any seminar, course, educational CEU I could get, I'm jumping in those classes and learning. And that was the best way. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifice, missing time with my family and time with my significant other. But it was really important to me because I wanted to help people get that feeling I had once when I was a child and help heal those bodies. But it was a lot of work to play catch up and learn the things I needed to learn. And as you know, it never stops. So I'm still learning.
Yeah, no kidding, man. And that's such a huge transition, man. You headed down the path of a professional athlete in the NFL, and you encounter something like a career disrupting injury, and next thing you know, you find yourself not only having to recover from the injury, but in essence, kind of starting over with a brand new path. And for you, I'm sure a lot of people see you and what you've accomplished today, between the content you produce, podcasts, articles, running the facility that you run, and building the brand that you've built. They probably think it's like, oh, well, this has been, it's easy for you where you're at and based on what you've done, but they don't understand that you kind of got caught off guard. I mean, you got completely caught off guard with the injury, had to not only fix yourself, but then start over. And even like you said, you found someone who inspired you from a training aspect, and they didn't have a job, so you worked there for free. And a lot of people take, I think, the success that they may see now or the way it may appear now and think that it was a totally different journey getting here. And it's, I think, always such a treat to hear, because I have, similar kind of story in that it wasn't I didn't know where I was going. I thought I had a completely different path, and through an injury found myself redefining myself and actually discovering my true passion. And incredibly powerful, man. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
So now with what we're getting into today specifically is, I think, one of the most important keys to success in the gym business, and that is culture. And it is something that I've not only from my own observations, but just from what I've heard from other people who've either been to your facilities or who know you personally, that this is your thing and you've truly mastered this, and not just from how you carry yourself or how you're communicating with people, but you've really turned this into a system within your business. And so I'm excited to dive into that with you today. Before I do, how would you define culture in the gym business, first of all, and what are some things that you maybe see people are doing incorrectly when it comes to culture?
Well, Anatomy in South Beach is a, brainchild of my business partner, Chris Pacello, and myself, with the fitness component. But the most important part of it was when you go into a gym, most people want to be in a gym. They may not admit it, but they want to be in a gym or a fitness facility for the positive energy. Now, if you're in a fitness facility and it's a bit confrontational, and I'm all for everyone being focused and being driven and being serious when they train. I love that. But at the same time, I don't think anyone shows up at a facility with anywhere from 800 to 2,000 members and expect to not be social. Like, if you're going there, let's be honest, you kind of want to be social because you're going to be around a mass amount of people. But with the things that I saw that I didn't like was, number one, there's so many people on the staff or the team that the managers or the owners, they weren't connected to the people that were on their team. And let's face it, the people on the team, they're everything. They are the bones of the business, and they make the bus go, so to speak, as John Gordon says. So I found that it needed to change. And if a trainer was working with someone, then the trainer was all into that client. But let's say it was just a gym member and the trainer wasn't connected to them and they weren't a client of that trainer, then they didn't even acknowledge the existence of that member. And I had a big problem with that. The other thing was the overall team atmosphere. Now, I would get frustrated because, I saw a group of 20 trainers, 25 trainers, 30 trainers not interacting as a team. I understand that training is a competitive environment. However, there's no reason we can't function as a team and help each other, have each other's backs, and look out for each other. Now, I would get frustrated because they didn't act in that manner, but I started to think and understand that how can I expect them to understand what that means if they've never been a part of a team? So I started to realize it's a lot of responsibility, because the only way to create that is to emulate that and to lead with your actions and do the things you're supposed to do, being professional, being punctual, doing, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And that's why Anatomy exists today, because we wanted to create an ultra positive atmosphere that's caring, friendly, helpful, a positive energy. People are smiling, treat everyone with respect. There's a great sense of community and pride. It's energetic. We're just passionate about following through and making sure that everyone's having a wonderful experience.
And and was that the mission? It sounds like that was the mission from day one, right? And that this is really what you built the foundation of Anatomy on, was really that attention, not just to the members themselves, but even the team of the staff themselves, right?
Correct. My intention was never to create a gym. It was to create a culture. And if you could create that culture, then the age-old field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. If you create a wonderful culture where it's positive, like I'll give you an example. We have people that show up to Anatomy just to go in the spa or have a cup of coffee, just to be around like-minded, positive people. They need that dose every day. So they come in, they get a friendly hello. The person at the front desk knows the person. They know about their family. When they walk in, they don't just say hello to the front desk. They say hello to every single person that crosses their path, and they know them by name. And that was the most important thing. It's just like everyone's safe there, including our staff. I wanted to create a wonderful place for our team, because our team works so very hard. They should be treated special, because there's a lot of trainers out there. I'm not so sure how many professionals are out there.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's an unfortunate thing when, we work with gyms all over the world, all shapes and sizes, and culture is one of the topics that is often addressed when we're consulting with these gyms, because the impression that most gym owners have of what culture is within their business is they just think, oh, that means I've got to do a barbecue every now and again and have some fun, and it's not just the working out. It's like, man, that is barely even the tip of the iceberg. The culture is not just the culture with the members and trying to be intentional and cultivating that with them, but it actually starts with the culture with your staff, because like you said, they're the bones of the business. And if there is a strong culture and strong buy-in at the top, and everyone is operating as one single, united force of energy, of positivity, of that like-mindedness, then it's going to trickle into, and it is setting the precedent for the remainder of the community themselves, right? Where are they going to learn it? You can't expect them to figure this out on their own. We have to lead by example. So how did you start this? How did you make this like the culture amongst the team? What are some things that you do or did to initiate this? And maybe like, where can someone listening to this thinking, man, this sounds great, where do I begin? Where can someone start?
Well, I think you start with finding a mentor or someone that you aspire to maybe emulate or try to replicate what they do. I think that's, Tony Robbins calls it modeling. I think that's one of the most powerful things in the world. If you don't lead by example, you don't understand. No one's going to understand what to do. No one's going to surprise you with the results if you don't tell them exactly what to do. So how do you start? You model someone. You follow them. You go to them. You seek them out. They might not return your call, your email, and you have to absolutely hound them to spend time around them to know how it's done. I have a Another one of my business partners, he's a wonderful man. He owns 150 businesses. He owns a professional sports team, and I will absolutely bend his ear every single day. And if I have an issue, I will ask him, I'm not so sure how to handle this. Like, I need your help. And he'll tell me this is exactly what I would do. And I need that because I know what I would do, but two brains are better than one. That's the first thing. The second thing is 80% of your issues will be a result of the people you hire. So you have to know exactly what you're looking for, and then you need to write it down. You need to say, what are we looking for? What are our standards? At Anatomy, we have very high standards, but our standards, they're in place based off the experiences that I've had and other trainers have had in the industry, and then what we're trying to provide, or that experience that we're trying to provide for our members. So when a trainer shows up for an interview, if he's not 5 minutes early, like we don't hire him. We don't go forward. We go through the interview, but we're not hiring that person. We just can't do it. We're very big on punctuality. We're also very big on manners. We're big on presentation, on the way someone dresses. You can't respect someone who doesn't respect themselves. We want them to act like a pro, think it into being. And then we want them, we're not hiring people just to bang out sessions. They have to add value other than that. I understand that's the business. That's going to create income for them. But we're trying to create an environment that adds more than just sessions. That's teamwork, that's positive energy, that's enthusiasm, everything you could possibly think of that's going to make someone walk by this facility and say, I need to be in there, I need to be around those people. So start with modeling and start with the way you hire. And I suggest, I've read books on hiring. I know what I've worked with. I know what helps me. I know what I want to be around. And those are the people I hire. I pay attention. The first question I usually ask, to be quite honest, Marcus, is training your life? And there's really only one or two ways to answer that question. If it's not absolutely, I don't hire them. Like there's no way around that.
Love that, man. Yeah. Who we bring on, obviously, we want to make sure that they, in their heart of hearts, have a love for people and have a passion for what they do, first and foremost, because all the other stuff, these are skills we can teach. These are protocols we can have within our business on, hey, these are our standards for, these points of performance or how we program and these kinds of things. But if someone doesn't have the passion and someone doesn't have the excitement and love for people, they're just not going to fit in, no matter how technically sound or experienced that person may be.
Absolutely.
So we create the culture first and foremost by finding the right people, which I know we're going to get questions on this in the threads for the show, so I might as well ask now. How do you go about attracting the talent or finding the talent?
To be quite honest, I take a lot of cues from a gentleman that was my coach at the University of Richmond. His name was Jim Reed, and I spent a lot of time around him watching the way he recruited. And the way he recruited was he wasn't looking for the best football players because he was so confident in his ability to coach. He was looking for the best people. He was looking for high character people, quality people who are well mannered, respectful. If they walk in the building and they haven't said hello to anyone from the front desk to the top floor and they don't look people in the eye, that's a big deal. Those aren't, red flags. Those are like huge. I call them red cities. Those are big things. And if you miss those moments, well, you're going to miss everything else. But you have to pay attention to their behavior. That's the biggest thing in the world. So I take tips from him. And a lot of the people that work for Anatomy now, they really weren't recruited. They showed up and they said, I want to work for Anatomy. And I have stories from Sean Garner, is a gentleman who messaged me several times via email and social media. I was on the computer, a Skype call with him as well. He moved his wife and two kids across the country to work at Anatomy.
Wow.
Marcs Story is someone who's an incredible worker. He's someone from Richmond, Virginia, who worked with me at another facility. But I was like, that was a recruiting. I said, I want this guy to be here because he's so special. Grant Wiedens, who's a superstar instructor, he came to me from Bomberito Performance. I knew about Grant. I knew he was from the military. I knew he was focused. He showed up and interviewed for the job, and he's been absolutely wonderful. He's a pillar of Anatomy. Jacqueline Kaysen is a superstar instructor that I used to work with. She's incredibly special. So if you think about it, I have Eric Story from Richmond, Virginia, Grant Whedon's from Chicago, Jacqueline Kaysen is from New York in the Northeast. Alessandra, Eric Story's wife, is from Brazil. She's an incredible energy, just a superstar person. And then I have people that show up. Edwin Santiago is a trainer of mine. He came in. He was on vacation with his family in Miami. He said, I want to come in and talk to you about work. I had him purposely show up at Sunday morning. I think it was at 6 a.m. He showed up at 5:45. He was well dressed. He was alert. He was ready to go. Incredibly well mannered, incredibly professional, and very well educated. And I think you attract, those things that you are in regards to standards, manners, respect, and education.
Man, I love it. So we're getting the right people on the bus, and the next question is what are you doing with the team to really cultivate that teamwork, that unified front, as opposed to, as we see most commonly in the gym environment, which is everyone's kind of out for their own, right? It's either they're just clocking in, clocking out because they're getting paid by the class. Hey, I'm only here for, from 5 to 6. So they're going to show up 3 minutes before class starts. The second it's done, they grab their bag and they're back out the door. How are you getting that bigger buy-in ongoing?
Well, you mentioned before, it's not just a team barbecue or spending time together. I think those things that are set up in those events are absolutely special. But, the glue of the team and the staff that we have of anatomy, including like the front desk, front office, maintenance. I don't want to give you the impression that it's perfect, because it's far from perfect. But what you do see is a constant and significant effort by everyone to do their part to bring things a little bit closer together. And that's the important thing. So we have team meetings every Thursday. They're an hour meeting. This is probably the only time where there are really no phones. It's just team talk, so to speak. And it could be an educational presentation from the team it could be on communication skills. It could be on biomechanics. It could be on anything. But that's a time that we spend together. So we do a thing called table topics, where we'll ask questions to teammates. They don't know who's going to get the question, and they have to do impromptu speaking for a certain amount of time. And the way they answer the questions is well, that's exactly where I got it from. I went to Toastmasters for a few years in Miami Beach, and that was probably the most beneficial thing I took out of there. And it just helped. Number one, they're working on their public speaking. Number two, they're connecting with their teammates. Number three, they realize that the bulk of their communication skills are going to improve their personal training, right, in their professionalism. So it's all of those things. And then we do I call it a 360 meeting, where the person actually, it's almost like they're not roasted, if you will, but they'll sit in the middle and listen, we have everyone talks about the things that they don't like. Basically, it's not let's suck up to this person and tell them how wonderful they are. It's let's tell them what we don't like in a constructive way, and you need to be better at this because that wasn't fair, and this is something that is going to divide us, and we don't like this. And that's very, very challenging to do, and you cannot do that unless you have an open-minded group. And I think that we actually grew from that, and we grew much closer after that. Everyone went through it. It took a few months to do, and we're going to do that once a year. But that was a big help.
Wow, that's an extremely powerful exercise. I don't think I've ever heard of someone using that within the gym business to... It's
emotional.
Yeah,
it's emotional.
No kidding. You're going to get the real deal. People's feelings and egos are at stake in the moment, right? But like you said, it may be difficult to go through, but what you get out of it is pure gold.
Right.
Wow, that's powerful, man. So we've got an incredible team, the right people, the right culture, the right spirit, and everyone's really singing from the same sheet of music in regards to how we show up to our clients. Are you doing anything directly with the clients themselves now to continue passing that culture on? What's the next layer?
So, in regards to clients, it's hard because the clients also, they're in their safe place and they're having a positive experience for the most part, but it's hard for them to say, "Hey, Marc, some clients like, listen, they're going to be your best projects in regards to this little exercise, but they'll tell you exactly what you're doing wrong." But I'm not looking for those people, because those people always give me the feedback, and it's wonderful, and I appreciate it. But I'll ask someone who's always happy, give me one thing that I need to work on, or one thing that we need to work on as a team, or one way anatomy can get better. And that feedback that you get from them is really powerful, because in essence, you create 800 plus secret Santas, and they're shopping, like secret shoppers, so to speak, and they're letting you know, hey, you know what I noticed? Like, this is not good. I wish you could do something with this. And they're usually small and easy fixes, but they'll make a significant change for your overall business and environment.
Is that something that you are asking at any particular time in the relationship, or is it just kind of happenstance whenever it feels appropriate?
It's when it feels appropriate. I'll catch someone in between a trainer-client session, a member in between one of their sessions, or if they're in free time, if we're chit-chatting. But, I pick up most of the things that I pick up or see in downtime, walking the floor at different times, seeing how people interact, seeing, how they move through the gym, what's in the way, what's not in the way, and just basically paying attention. A lot of these things are noticed through time and spending time when you would think you'd be wasting time. I need to be at my desk doing something. I need to be looking at this report. I need to be making sure the schedule and the programming is on point. Well, there's a lot of time you need to be standing in the facility and just paying attention.
Absolutely. You had mentioned in the pre-show, like making an actual list of things that add value to relationship, friendships, work, team, business. I'd like to kind of transition into that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that concept and what you mean with that?
Right. So we want to bring people onto our team who are going to add value, and we always discuss in our team meetings the topic of finding fault. Now, finding fault or ways to improve or constructive criticism can be an incredibly positive thing, but it's easy to point out fault, if you will. And I always tell the team, you're actually not allowed to bring up criticism, find fault, or bring up an issue unless you're coming to the table with a solution as well. So when I say add value, if someone has a problem with the way we do things, I'm absolutely open to hearing why, but I'm more open to hearing what the solution is. So we want to have a team of enthusiastic problem solvers, if you will. So what I do is I have an exercise where Saturday or Sunday morning, usually on the weekends, I break out a piece of paper and I look at myself as a husband. I look at myself as a leader. I look at myself as a boss. I look at myself as a teammate, as a trainer, and as a brother. And then I start making a list of anywhere from 1 to 20 things, just words or short sentences on how I can improve. And then the following week, I actually go back to that list and see if I improved on any of them. So I know it's a lot of things. You want to keep the list small, but I find that if I really make the list and those thoughts are in my head, I can actually improve on those things. Well, I probably got at least 1% better in each aspect.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for a while. It really helps me because I read a book. I'm sure you've read it. It's called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
Actually, I've not read that.
It's a great book, and it talks about Rockefeller and how when Rockefeller was a young man, he was probably the only person to this day who said he was going to be the richest man in the world, and he actually turned out to be the richest man in the world, and he followed through on that promise. He used to do an exercise sitting in his living room by himself where he would be good guy, bad guy, and he would say, look, I've done this, I've donated money to charity, I help people, I made all this money, I created these special systems to make my companies better, I'm helping these families with jobs. And then he'd say, wait a minute, I have responsibility to do more. I'm put into this wonderful position. Yes, because I've worked hard, but also because with great power becomes great responsibility. We've heard that before. But I need to do a little bit more, and how can I get better? I need to stop telling myself I've done enough and I need to improve. So it was an exercise of, putting the ego to the side and actually focusing on, can you be better? And of course we can all be better. And then taking a real shot at yourself and saying, these are the ways that I could do that. Because it's easy to say, I've done all these wonderful things, pat me on the back, I'm a hero, I'm a savior, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not doing everything right. The culture at Anatomy, it's our culture, it's special, but it could be better. And we had this conversation yesterday. So I can't save the culture, nor can one trainer. Each trainer and each person on the team, including the maintenance team, has to figure out how they can be just a little bit better. And yes, I can help them, they can help me, and that's why we work.
That's awesome. So is this an exercise that you've passed along to your team and encouraged them to do as well? Or is this just part of your personal practice?
This is part of my personal practice. The team, it's all verbal. It's all in a conversational piece where I do one-on-ones with each trainer and we talk about it.
How often do you meet with your team on a one-on-one basis?
It's quarterly. It used to be monthly, but with all the responsibilities that are popping up, it's quarterly. But I think that time is really important. Now, I say it's quarterly where we have an organized meeting where we grab, a coffee or tea or go out to lunch and have a meal. But if it's not that, we have micro meetings where I'll see them in the office and we'll talk about topics that could be early in the morning. Like one of my trainers, I talk early in the morning to him every once in a while. It could be 4 a.m., but we have some of our best conversations that may only be 10 to 15 minutes at that time.
Right, but just as they come up
along
the
absolutely,
way,
absolutely. But strategically, it's 4 times a year.
Got it. You've shared a ton of knowledge already, Marc, and I want to thank you for everything that you've done. I feel like you've given our audience already an immense amount of
it's a pleasure.
Things to think about and ideas and things they can implement in their business between whether it be for themselves and their practice with what you just said or with things they can implement with their team, their hiring process, and really cultivating that culture. If you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would that be?
Get help. Get help. I talked to a gym owner yesterday, and he said, hold on, let me show you my social media. And he says, I do that too. And I said, well, who does your books, and who do you have consulting, and who's the head of your business strategy, and who's the head of your sales? He said, I do all of it. I said, that doesn't work. That's just not possible. And everyone says, yeah, I know that, but look, I put my heart, soul, my life into this thing. I was on vacation last week, 2 weeks ago with my wife in LA, and I spent the majority of that vacation on the phone with trainers and members trying to make sure that everything's going smoothly. And I know we've heard of the Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, but let's be honest, like there's no one out there who's reached a high level of success only working 4 hours. I mean, that's just my opinion, and I think the world of Tim Ferriss, but we all know that you have to put a significant amount of time in, but actually to step away and make sure you have great team players in place to do certain jobs that, let's be honest, you can't do as well. Like I have Vanessa in sales who's incredible, David Geller who heads our consulting. He's just an amazing person who helps me with things that I could never do. Our GM, David Miller, this guy is a ultra workhorse and he's special. The woman I have doing the books, Maxine, she's on top of everything. I could shoot her a message right now and she'll shoot me something back immediately to make sure that we're on top of everything. You have to get help. You have to have the right people on your team. And have you ever seen the movie Miracle?
No, I have not.
One of my favorites was the 1980 U.S. hockey team that beat Russia for the gold. I'm not looking for the best ones. I'm looking for the right ones. There's a certain person, there's a certain energy that we're looking for that's going to make our team special so we can really optimize things. And those are the people that you have to spend so much time finding. And once you find those people, your business is going to go smooth. There's going to be hiccups, but it's going to go smoother than you think. But finding those people, it's hard. So the number one thing, get help and get high quality help.
Love it, man. Thank you for sharing. Marc, you've got a ton of things going on. I know you guys, besides the existing location you guys have, I think you guys are adding locations with Anatomy Fitness. Yeah. Is that right? What do you guys have in the hopper? And how can people find out more about it?
Correct. We're opening 2 new locations. The first one is in Anatomy, downtown Miami, That's Anatomy number 2. That's going to be a really beautiful, large facility. And then we're also opening another one up on Miami Beach. That's also a wonderful, wonderful space. I'm really looking forward to that one right on the beach. So if you want to look us up, you can go to Anatomy Fitness cultivate.com, and you can learn all about Anatomy's programming, signing up, and getting special rates when you sign up early prior to open.
Awesome, man. And where can people find out more just about you and what you're up to outside of Anatomy?
Any of my social media handles, they're all Marc Megna, MarcMegna on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The Megna Method online, that's Megna Method, Method.com, and all things anatomy as well.
Beautiful, man. Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time and sharing your knowledge with our audience. I'm sure we'll get a bunch of questions here after the fact in the comments. So if you're watching this live, thank you for joining us. And I want to thank all, Marc, thank you again for taking the time with us.
Absolutely.
I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners out there for joining us today as well. Again, if you are listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview along with the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you are enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Your support means the world to us. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can join the conversation every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in the network. Thank you again for your support. Now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you all again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.